Hello students, this is the part 3rd of chapter 6 life process. In this topic you will learn about the transportation. Students, in your daily lives just you see the transporting system which carries the goods from one place to another, and they transport several things like for example the trucks are there, the trains are there, okay, aeroplanes are there, so many vehicles are there. In such manner in our body, that is also a transporting system which carry so many materials from one part of the body into the another. Okay, so how these materials are transporting we will learn here. And the first is here the blood, which is very essential. So blood is a red color pigment or the liquid which carry and which circulate in our body, and it contains the hemoglobin, which is a connective tissue. Okay, so the blood and this hemoglobin which added with the oxygen, and it called the pure blood or the oxygenated blood. Fine students, another the plasma. The components of the bloods are the plasma, RBCs, WBCs and platelets. Fine. So the first is here the plasma, that is the liquid part of the blood. It is colorless and 90% is containing the water. Fine. With dissolved substances such as proteins, digested food, salts, waste products and all the cells present in it. So these are the different materials which are present in the plasma. Now the RBCs, the WBCs and the platelets. Students, RBCs that are called the red blood cells and which are responsible for the red color pigmentation. Fine. And the WBCs, which are also called the soldiers of the body, because they also create the antibodies to fight the infections. And finally the platelets, they are found in the bone marrow and they do not have any nuclei, but they are helping in the clotting of the blood. Okay, so what are the functions of the blood? It transports oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, hormone, ions, enzymes, waste products from one part to another part. Second is they help in protection against diseases, and third is they help to regulate body temperature. Why? Because in your previous topic in the respiration we know very well that the energy is produced, okay, after respiration. Fine. And the blood that is responsible to transport the energy from one organ to another. So it maintains the temperature of our body. Okay, fine. Now I'm coming here the human circulatory system, and it consists of arteries, veins, capillaries and blood and heart. So these are the basic components which are responsible for the circulatory system. The first are the arteries. They are the thick walled. They have no any wall inside it, but they are the elastic blood vessels and they carry blood from heart to the other parts except the pulmonary artery. Fine. The veins are here and they are the thin walled blood vessels. They carry blood from the various parts of the body to the heart, and they have walls which prevent the backflow of blood. The third are the capillaries, and they are the thin walled, extremely narrow and occurs at the terminal of artery and veins, and they join arteries and veins together. Fine. So in that manner they increase the surface area for the maximum absorption of the different types of substances. Okay. Now the next is the walls are permeable to water and dissolved substances, so that exchange of material between blood and cell body takes place. Students, you are looking at here the structure of human heart. Now you can look at here the aorta, which is the main artery and that carry the pure blood or the oxygenated blood from heart to the body parts. Fine. Now this is the pulmonary artery. That is the pulmonary artery. These are the pulmonary veins. Okay. This is the left atrium. This is the left ventricle. This is the right ventricle, and this is the right atrium. So students, you can see here the heart is divided into 4 chambers. Upper 2 are the atrium and the lower 2 are the ventricles. Now here you are looking, the walls are present in both the sides, okay, between the atrium and the ventricle. So in the right side, the wall is here you are looking, that is present, and that is called the tricuspid wall, because it is carrying the 3 flap-like structures. Apart from that, in the left side chamber, the wall is present, and that is called the bicuspid wall. This is called the bicuspid wall. Okay, and this is made up of 2 flap-like structures. Fine. And in between both the chambers, just you are looking the structure, and that is called the partition, completely separating the 2 halves, and that is called the septum. Okay. What we are calling here? This is called the septum. Fine. So students, the question can be asked to you, why the walls are present in both the chambers, between the both chambers? So because it prevents the flow of the blood into the back side. Okay, so in both terms, just we can say, when this chamber will be full and the wall will be open and it will come into the ventricle, afterwards due to these walls they will not come again into the previous chamber or the previous atrium. So students, they prevent the flow of the blood into the back side. Okay. Now students, the heart is made up of cardiac muscles. Due to these cardiac muscles, that the study of the heart, that is called the cardiology, and in between 2 membranes of the heart, fluid is filled there. Okay, so that's why it prevents the heart from the different type of jerks. So that is the structure of the heart. Students, how the circulatory system works, let us see here the linear sketch which I am showing to you, and in this way just you can learn how the circulatory system works. So first, where we know very well, in the respiratory system we got to know about how the oxygen will come into the lungs or the breathing system, and afterwards the blood capillaries or the blood cells which carry the oxygen. Okay, so it will occur in the lungs. So finally oxygenated blood will come from the lungs by the pulmonary vein. So the pulmonary vein carries the oxygenated blood from the lungs, and this oxygenated blood will come into the left atrium of the heart. Okay, so it will come the left atrium. Afterwards, when this left atrium will be filled by the pure blood or the oxygenated blood, this wall will be opened by the pressure of the blood, and finally the blood will come into the left ventricle. Afterwards, this wall will be closed, so that wall cannot be entered again into the atrium. So a pressure will be creating into the atrium. Fine. Sorry, the pressure will be creating on the artery, and this is the main artery, or we can say the aorta, and the aorta that carry the pure blood into the body organs. So due to the aorta, oxygenated blood will be transferred to the different body organs. Here the respiration will be going on, and the energy will be produced, and it will be circulated to different body parts. Okay, fine. Afterwards, we know very well in the respiratory system, the combustion of the glucose, and finally the products were the carbon dioxide, water, and the energy. So the carbon dioxide, that is the excretory product, and it will carry by the blood into the main vein or the vena cava. Okay, the vena cava carries the deoxygenated blood or with the carbon dioxide blood, and it will be enter into the right atrium of the heart. So the vena cava carry deoxygenated blood from body organs to the right side or the right atrium of the heart. Finally, when this right atrium will be filled by the deoxygenated blood, the tricuspid valve will be open, and afterwards this deoxygenated blood will enter into the right ventricle. Now students, this tricuspid valve will be closed because to prevent the back flow of the blood. Afterwards, pressure will be created into the pulmonary artery, and this impure blood will enter into the pulmonary artery, where this blood will be come into the or the circulate or the transport to the lungs. So here the process will be again going. Now the impure blood will be changed into the pure blood or the oxygenated blood. So students, you are looking at here, the blood will enter into the heart with two times. First is there from lungs to the heart, and afterwards the pure blood from the body organs to the heart. So this type of circulation, that is called the double circulation. So that is the characteristic of the mammals, that the double circulation of blood is found in the mammals. So the students, the sequence of events which takes place during the completion of one heartbeat, that is called the cardiac cycle, and it involves repeated rhythmic contraction and relaxation of cardiac muscles or the heart muscles. Fine. So the contraction, that is called the systole, and the relaxation is called the diastole. So the terms are here: the systolic pressure, that means the pressure of the blood which is creating in the wall of the arteries. This pressure is called the systolic pressure. And when the arteries of the walls of the arteries which are being relaxed, okay, so in such phase, that is called the diastolic pressure. So students, we will got to know about how we can measure the systolic pressure and the diastolic pressure. So in such an equipment is invented, and that is called the sphygmomanometer. So students, the pressure of blood inside artery during ventricular relaxation, that is called the diastolic pressure. You are looking at here, this is the sphygmomanometer, and which measure the blood pressure in the arteries. So the blood pressure is measured in the instrument, and that is called the sphygmomanometer. What happened, that this is a rubber cup and inflated with the air, and finally it creates a pressure by this puff or this pad to the arms, and afterwards when the artery will be pressurized, okay, so the blood will be stopped, and afterwards just we release the cuff and the release of the pressure against the arteries wall, and finally we measure the pressure. The first sound will be here lub, okay, and that is the systolic pressure, and it is about 120 mmHg. And the second sound, which we can say the relaxation of the artery, and we hear that the dove, and that is the systolic pressure, and this is the diastolic pressure, and that is about 80 mmHg. Okay, so these are that is the instrument, and which we can measure from this instrument. We can measure the blood pressure inside our body. Friends, another transporting system, that is the lymphatic system, and it consists of lymph, capillary vessels, nodes or glands, and lymph is yellow colored mobile liquid and connective tissues that consist of plasma and the lymphocytes. So the plasma is a fluid matrix and somewhat similar to blood plasma, contain protein molecules, digested fats, germs, fragments of dead cells, and the lymphocyte cells fight against infection. But remember here, this is the unidirectional. Okay, so it will be, the plasma will be go from the tissues to the heart. Okay, so that is the unidirectional flow in the lymphatic system. So the lymph is called extracellular fluid because it lies outside of the cells and flows in one direction, such that from tissue to the heart. And now the functions of the lymphatic system, this we can understand. It absorbs some of the fluids from digestive tract. It carries carbon dioxide and nitrogenous waste from tissues to the blood, and it protects the body by killing germs. So students, the major part of the system, the transporting system, that is the lymphatic system and the circulatory system, and they are very important for the transporting different type of materials in our body. Okay students, we have studied the transporting system in the human beings. Now I am starting here the transportation in the plants. So students, the transportation system in the is less elaborate in plants because they are comparatively less active and require less supply of materials either from outside or the synthesized by the plants themselves, because a few amount of energy is required for the plants because they are non-motile, as we know very well. So in plants, during respiration there is intake of oxygen and release of carbon dioxide, and they obtain gases from atmosphere through roots, stomata in leaves, and lenticels, woody roots, and the stems. So exchange of gases between cells and environment takes place by the process of diffusion. So students, in plants, water and minerals are absorbed mainly from the soil and then the transporting upward through the specific tissues that are called the xylem. So the xylem that is responsible for the transportation of water and minerals, and by the leaves when they make the food. Afterwards the phloem that transport the prepared food to the different parts of the body. Okay, so this process of the transporting of the food, that is called the translocation. So here two terms are there, the transportation of the water and minerals and transportation of the food. So that is the translocation. You are looking at here the structure or the mechanism of the transportation of different type of materials or the minerals and the water, and which is carried out by the xylem. Okay, so I am describing here and this topic that we can say the ascent of sap. So in such manner, who are the responsible for that? Like this is a root system, and the root system that the roots are carrying a small fiber-like structure. They are called the root hair. So students, this is a film of water and minerals. Okay, so water and minerals are engulfing or the merging in the soil particles, and by these root hair they absorb the water and mineral by the diffusion system. Okay, and when the water and mineral will be enter into the root hair, it will be transported by the xylem vessels. Okay, two types of structures that we can find particularly responsible for the transporting of water and minerals in the plants, and they are the xylem vessels and the xylem tracheates. Okay, so by them the xylem vessels, they carry the water and mineral through the root system, and it will enter into the xylem vessels in the stem. Fine. So the water system will be entered into the stem, and afterwards it will be transporting to the leaf structure. Okay, so the leaf is here and the leaf xylem. Now what happened when the water will enter into the leaf by the stomata? The leaves make the food for the plants with the photosynthesis. Okay, so here the transporting or the loss of water, it will be held by the stomata. So the loss of water would be occurred in the leaves, and this process is called the transpiration. In other words, we can say the evaporation of water that is conducting on the surface of the leaves, and this loss of water, this phenomenon is called the transpiration. Okay students, So in such manner, just we can say in the leaves the transpiration will occur. But what happened apart from that? If the continuity of the losing of water will be occurred, so that is not possible for the leaves to making the food will be in the continuous manner. Okay, so it needs water again and again. So the xylem or the capillary system will be creating here, or the channel system will be creating. So the demand of the water will be fulfilled by the xylem of the leaves that will connect to the xylem of the stem, and the xylem of the stem will be connected to the xylem of the roots, and finally it will be absorbed by the diffusion method. So just you are looking at here, students, this is the ascent of sap, and it creates a channel system in the absorption of water and minerals. So what are the strategies? Let's look at here. Upward movement of water and minerals. Movement of water and minerals is due to root pressure. Okay, so the root absorbs water and exerts a pressure which pushes the water upward, or the transpiration, and now the pull, that is called the transpiration pull. Okay, and it generated in leaves pull, the water column filled in xylem vessels and the tracheids, and the transpiration, the loss of water in the form of vapors. So the loss of water in the form of vapors from the living tissues of aerial parts, that is called the transpiration. So it occurs mainly the process of diffusion through the stomata, like the tiny pores present in the lower side of the leaf, like the kidney-shaped guard cells surrounding them, and they regulate opening and closing of the stomata. So students, transpiration helps in the absorption of and upward movement of water and minerals dissolved in its form roots to the leaves, and it also regulates the temperature. So the transpiration, that is also essential for the plants. Students, this is the transportation of food, and the term transportation of food, that is called the translocation. Okay, so this is the translocation, where the phloem is made up of sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, and the phloem fibers. So the phloem is a complex permanent tissue running parallel with the xylem vessels, and afterwards the transport of soluble products of photosynthesis, that is called the translocation. Fine. So how it would be occurred? Let us see. When the leaf make the food by the photosynthesis process, afterwards the food will be entered into the sieve tubes, where the energy is also produced, and it will also enter into the sieve tubes. So the food and the energy will be entered into the sieve tubes. Now the method of the osmosis. Okay, the method of the osmosis, the water will be also enter into the sieve tube of the phloem, where it exerts a great pressure. After the pressure of the water, the food will be transported into the different type or the different parts of the plant. Now when this will be entered, the food will be entered into the bud, that is the glucose moves into the growing bud, and here the requirement of the energy, which is highly essential. Fine. So the ATP molecules are very essentially, if the food is going against the gravitational force, and that is easy for the phloem tissues to move the food the downwards or the towards the gravitational force, like the root system.